Imagine a global plan so ambitious that it promised to end poverty, stop climate change, and make world sustainable. A plan so invisible that almost nobody can name it, even though every ministry, university, and NGO already works under its rules. You don't need a conspiracy when everyone is following the same Excel sheet.
Well, that's no surprise at all.
Welcome or welcome back to the People's Perspective, where we unpacked what matters decoded for people who actually think. Tonight, we'll discuss the mostly unknown to the public Agenda 2030, how a single UN framework became the quiet backbone of national budgets, academic programs, and social campaigns, and why it's shaping your daily life even if you never heard of it. Watch till the end as we finish on the lighter note. This happy news of the week involves a squirrel that faked her own death, and honestly, it made my week. We are following close on this channel's topics such as public funding, whistleblowers, and different aspects of democracy. Today, we reveal some of the secrets of most open and officially unbinding law in the world that defines how our money is spent and how our lives will soon look. Agenda 2030 sounds harmless. You could say visionary. It's packed in 17 colorful goals arranged in a little wheel. Zero hunger, clean energy, gender equality. Who could possibly disagree with it? And that's the trick. It isn't about the words, it's about the system built around them. This episode isn't about theories, it's about the document, its mechanism, and the money trail it is leaving behind. The truth is, nobody voted for it, but everyone is paying for it. To understand Agenda 2030, we have to go back to the early 2000s, to its older sibling, the Millennium Development Goals. That time, it was only 8 goals, simple metrics, and catchy deadline 2015. They targeted poverty, health, and education in developing countries. By the time the goals expires, the UN wanted something bigger, a universal version that applied to every country. And so, in 2015, Agenda 2030 was born. A 35-page resolution adopted by General Assembly, not a treaty, not legally binding, just a shared vision for humanity. But in its genius, government volunteered to align their national plans with those goals. And in doing so, they effectively looked themselves into the framework that behaves like a law. Every year, countries must do voluntarily national reviews, polish reports on how they are progressing. That means bureaucrats plan their budgets around these goals. NGOs shape their project to match them. Universities design new degrees to support the development. In the end, even private businesses are implementing strategies that transform their customers' reality. Because if you want funding, you use language of SDGs. Essentially, once you label something sustainable or add any of those colorful sparkles, you've already won the grant. Let's go back to that rainbow wheel. You may have seen it on conferences wall, on influential people's suites, at the airports. It looks friendly, almost childlike, but it's not a logo, it's a code. each slice of that wheel corresponds to one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And behind each goal, there are 169 targets and over 200 indicators tracked by the UN statistic divisions. This turns politics into a data race and international competition on spreadsheets. Politicians, instead of working for the interest of their voters, follow the goals. Policies are written not to solve problems but to tick those colorful boxes. If you want proof, just open any ministry annual report and read it carefully, or simply listen to their speeches, and you will see those SDGs icons sprinkled like confetti. They are everywhere because they are required. The UN doesn't order nations to do it, but to stay aligned, they simply must follow them. The financing backbone of Agenda 2030 is called the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. Another unknown guideline that steers the wheel of our contemporary world. This one tells nations how to pay for sustainability. Governments were told not to rely only on taxes, but to mobilize private capital as well. In other words, governments must create policies that steer investment toward the right goals. Quite clever, honestly. That's why every major development bank, investment fund, and multinational corporation now speaks the same language. Universities get research grants for SDGs brand innovations. NGOs get donations for SDGs component projects. Startups get loans if they advance, for example, Goal 9 or reduce emissions per Goal 13. The wheel isn't just a logo. At this moment, it's a currency symbol. Let's follow the chain further. Universities. Almost every major institution now publish an SDG impact report. Departments compete on how many goals they advanced. Engineering focuses on sustainable infrastructure. Sociology calls it social inclusion. And business schools rebrand capitalism as stakeholder responsibility. That's my favorite. Students graduate fluent in the new dialect words like resilience, diversity, partnership, net zero, all drawn from the same colorful UN lexicon. They don't question the framework because they are born into it. Everything must be measurable, alignable, and reportable. And ministries, governments rewrite their budgets to fit the 17 goal grid. Each program, housing, education, healthcare, must point to an SDG. That means national laws are now written to fulfill international targets. And most importantly, the question, what does our country actually need at the moment? This is extinct. Nowadays, officials ask, what should we do to align with the goals? If you think it couldn't be even more outrageous, you won't believe this part. There were almost no national votes, no referendum, no debate. Because Agenda 2030 isn't sold as a policy, it's sold as a virtue. And question it, and you are labeled as right extremists, conspiracy theories, anti-progress, whatever. And the truth is, we are observing a terrifying shift. Decisions are being passed forward to task forces, experts panels, or working groups. And they don't rule you directly. They simply decide what progress means. And once that progress has a definition, laws are rewritten to chase it. That's how a voluntary resolution becomes a de facto constitution. not by force, but by consensus, repetition, and founding. You don't see Agenda 2030 on your tax bill or grocery receipt, but you feel its fingerprints. When your country bans a product for sustainability reasons, when your electricity bill includes a climate tax, when your local government replaces traffic lights with, for example, bike lanes for green mobility, some of them aren't bad ideas, but their origins isn't your parliament and they are definitely not approved by you. They come from streamed frameworks, UN to national plan, then to ministry strategy, and then to the local project. Each layer proudly displays those little icons just hidden between the words, as if that rainbow wheel had been voted into law. It wasn't. Agenda 2030 is supposed to unite nations, but its implementation often divides societies. Because the goals are abstract, but the costs are real and local. When farmers protest new environmental rules, when workers lose jobs to green restructuring, when families can't afford the new sustainable products. They are not rejecting progress, they are rejecting a plan they never approved. The political class, NGOs, and academia prize the framework as the only path forward. But ordinary citizens are told, if you don't understand, you are the problem. That's how democracy fails, not with a military coup, but with a consensus no one remembers agreeing to. Every utopia comes with a recipe. This time, Agenda 2030 is measured not in dollars but in dependency. Because when nations align their policies with global frameworks, they trade our flexibility and freedoms. What started as cooperation quietly becomes control by coordination. And while governments chase the next sustainability milestone, the middle class absorbs the costs through taxes, higher prices, and slower growth. The system reroutes alignment, not outcomes. That's why the gap between slogans and reality keeps widening. If you never heard of Agenda 2030, I start to think it might be by design. Although it is everywhere, it's being silenced by growing information overload. Maybe it was never meant to be campaigned or implemented. And in fairness, its goals are noble, but good intentions don't excuse bad systems. When rules are written by the unelected and when virtue becomes the currency of policy, democracy stops being about the choice. It becomes about compliance. Next week on People's Perspective, we go back to the Whistleblower series with the story of Rosalinda Patterson, the woman who uncovered the link between climate manipulation programs, agriculture policy, the government secrecy. It's one of the most dramatic squirrels the internet has ever seen. Meet Bucky, a flying squirrel who decided to fake his own death. It all started when he knocked over broom while playing around. Not wanting to look clumsy, Bucky did what any true artist would do. He staged a crime scene. Taking the main role of the victim, he crawled under the broom, adjusted the murder weapon for better camera angles, and stretched himself across the floor to add just the right amount of realism and drama. Honestly, We've seen soap operas with less emotion than this. But one thing's for sure, this little guy deserves an Oscar both for acting and directing. In a world of bad news, it's refreshing to see a story where even Squirrel reminds us to take life a little less seriously and maybe use our creativity to cover for our own small mistakes. If you now start to spot rainbow wheels all around you, don't forget to share this video. This is how awareness spreads nowadays. I thank you greatly for watching till the end, and I hope to meet you here next week. New episodes every Sunday evening Zurich time. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, knowledge is the key.